Good evening. My name's Tom Tapuzis. Okay, here we go. You ready for this? Shh. That works so well. Thank you. Here's what we're going to do. First of all, I want to thank the IID for being the banquet sponsor of the title event. And title event sponsor. Thank you, IID. And I think Connor has a video he's going to queue up, so. And could we turn the house music down just a little bit, please? Thank you.
This is the 7th annual Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation Energy Summit. This year's title is California's Future, powered by the Imperial Valley.
The 7th Annual Renewable Summit is really a godsend to Imperial Valley. Tim Kelly and the people at IVEDC do a tremendous job socializing the capabilities of Imperial Valley through the summit. That's the county's capabilities, that's IID's capabilities, that's a willingness of people here to enable energy to be developed here, to create a growth industry down here for economic development. And we think that renewable industry could be the growth industry of choice.
In October of last year, we entered into an MOU with the Imperial County and also the Air Pollution Control District for their two main purposes. One is the restoration of the Salton Sea and helping the Salton Sea Authority meet their objective. And the second is the development of renewable resources in the area of the Salton Sea.
Well, the MOU is a kind of a unique agreement between the county and the IID to work together to solve the problems associated with the receding water from the water transfer of the Salton Sea. The vehicle of choice is to use renewables and generate revenues off the renewable development so that there's a funding source provided for the Salton Sea restoration and the receding water lines exposing the playa.
We've steadily built a coalition of local stakeholders, regional, governmental agencies, and some of the energy industry agencies. I believe that in 2014 we will advance this initiative to the point where not only the energy has a home or an off-taker, but the transmission will be well underway as well.
IID's Strategic Transmission Expansion Plan, aka STEP, is a plan that we actually filed with the state of California. It promotes reliability. It beefs up IID's system to prevent outages like we had at September 8th, 2011. It provides a path to market for renewable development. STEP will allow us to take renewables not only in the south, but do the renewables all the way across the valley and have a collector ring that will take renewables to whoever is the off-taker.
The loss of the San Onofre nuclear station creates a hole in the grid of about 2,200 megawatts. We believe that the Salton Sea initiative and the resources that are located there could replace that power on a one-to-one basis.
The Imperial Valley and the IID have been very instrumental in the development of renewable resources in California up to this stage. We believe in the coming years the Imperial Valley will play even a bigger part because of the natural resources we have and the diversification of the types of renewables that we have to offer. With the volatility of the fossil fuels worldwide, we also anticipate that the Imperial Valley will need to play an important part in the sustaining of California's economy.
We see economic development in a very positive role, and we think that IID is a key player in that economic development.
Renewable energy can be the platform to achieve that.
It will be a game changer for the Imperial County.
Thank you, IID. At this time, I would ask that the IVEDC board members present please stand up and be recognized. Okay, all at once, come on. Thank you. Would Carl Gadwell and also Jim Hanks please come forward? Let me tell you a little about Carl. Jim was introduced earlier. Carl's been the executive director of the Geothermal Energy Association since 1987. Prior to that, he was the director of governmental affairs for the American Wind Energy Association. His background includes senior positions in several national environmental organizations, including the National Wildlife Federation and the Wilderness Society. He's received his Bachelor's of Science Foreign Service from Georgetown University School of Foreign Service, and has studied in the Department of Economics at the University of Nottingham in England. Carl?
We can make this really easy. I mean, you've got a cooperative, you've got a memorandum of understanding with Imperial Valley. I want to present on behalf of the Geothermal Energy Association's Board of Directors a resolution expressing their support and endorsement of the Salton Sea Restoration and Renewable Energy Initiative, so that now you've got our collaboration as well as we move forward to make this happen in the next year. Thank you.
Thank you. That's quite an honor. Next, what I'd like to introduce is somebody who really needs no introduction, but nonetheless we get to go through the drill. His name is Kevin E. Kelly, General Manager, Imperial Irrigation District. Kevin, could you come up here, please? As many of us know, Kevin is a Brawleyite, a native of Brawley, a lifelong resident of Imperial Valley. He and this Tim Kelly guy, I think it's the Kelly conspiracy, they graduated from University of Southern California, where he majored in communication arts and sciences. His background includes media consulting, marketing and communications, public affairs, and a wide range of associated activities. He's the former editor and publisher of the Valley Grower magazine, a freelance writer, and his work has appeared in most of the West Coast major metropolitan newspaper, and he served as the editorial page editor for the Imperial Valley Press. The IID said, this is a good guy and we want him. So, in June 2006, they got him. And at that time, he was leading the public affairs and communication efforts of the IID. And then he said, he's a really good guy. So then they made him general manager in May 2011. Kevin.
Thank you, Tom, for that helpful introduction. It is true that Tim Kelly is my cousin. He's much older than me. And I want to thank whoever was in charge of the seating arrangement. I was able to count the pores on my face in that video there. But I'm here actually to introduce our speaker, who has been a great friend to not only IVEDC and the Imperial Valley and an IID, but to this, this now somewhat mature industry that we all affectionately refer to as renewables. Assemblymember V. Manuel Perez serves as the Assistant Majority Floor Leader of the California State Assembly. First elected in 2008, and now in his third and final term, Assemblymember Perez represents the 56th Assembly District, which comprises Eastern Riverside and Imperial counties. During his first 2 terms in office, Manuel served as chair of the Assembly Committee on Jobs, Economic Development, and the Economy. He believes in local economic development, supporting small business, and protecting local government. He has worked diligently to attract statewide attention to many local issues facing the desert areas he represents. He's a member of the following Assembly committees: Government Organization, Insurance, Jobs, Economic Development, and the Economy, and Revenue and Taxation. He lives in Coachella and is a lifelong resident of the Assembly District he represents. He has served as a school teacher, a youth advocate, and a community health care director. Before being elected to the Assembly, he served on the board of the Coachella Valley Unified School District. Please join with me in welcoming a great friend to the Imperial Valley, Assemblymember Manuel Perez.
Hello, everybody. Buenas tardes. Thank you for that generous introduction, Kevin. Really appreciate that. And it's been a while. We've been working together for a few years. And since then, I feel like I've gotten a little shorter because my sons are now taller than I am. I feel like I've lost some hair. And at the same time, I feel like I've grown some gray. And my ears have gotten bigger. But I tell you, at the same time, though, I feel really good about the work that we've done. And let me just say, it's an honor for me to be here with all of you. And I really appreciate the invitation. There are some great friends that are here that I want to say hello to and thank them for being friends and allies and being supporters. Sam Couchman, thank you for your great work. Thank you for being a friend. Mark Gran, I think he's around here as well. There he is. Thank you, Mark. Mr. Hanks, from the very get-go, really appreciate your support. Mr. Kelly, once again, thank you. Mr. Efrain Silva, I'm not sure if he's here, but he might have been here earlier. I want to say thank you to you as well. Gary Wyatt, a friend as well through all these years. Thank you, Gary, for all your hard work. And a colleague of mine in the Assembly who's now doing some great work on the ground, and that's former Assemblymember Pedro Nava. Muchas gracias. Thank you as well for being there. Ms. Carla Sigmund, Imperial Valley Community College. I want to say hello to you. And my Woman of the Year, City Manager for Brawley, Rosana Bayon Moore. That was back in 2010, I believe. So I want to say thank you, Rosanna. And I appreciate, once again, the invitation. And this is where it's at, ladies and gentlemen. You are the future of California. And it needs to be recognized, and quite frankly, it needs to be acknowledged. A few years back, probably you had around 100, 150 individuals coming to this conference, and now you've grown to 600, 650 folks that are coming from throughout the world, as far out as, I understand, Australia. And that says a lot about this conference, and rightly so. Rightly so. Nearly 40 years ago, a young Jerry Brown launched the renewable energy revolution in California and laid the foundation for the state's clean energy future. He adopted tough regulations on power plants and fuel and turned away from increased reliance on nuclear power in favor of energy efficiency. cogeneration, and renewable technologies. With the help of federal policy, the world's first large wind, solar, and geothermal plants in the world were built in and around this valley in the 1980s. These projects, known as qualifying facilities, or QFs, received special rate and regulatory treatment and spawned Imperial Valley's first generation of geothermal plants, in addition to the San Gorgonio wind farm located in the Coachella Valley. But in the 1990s, the California legislature became distracted by the siren song of deregulation and cheap energy, and the advent of free market planning of energy infrastructure. Renewables got lost in the shuffle, and no new renewable plants were built in California for the next 20 years. In the aftermath of the 2001-2002 collapse of California energy markets and growing concern about the threat of global warming and air pollution, California's legislative leaders enacted a series of clean energy reforms and initiatives, including the phase-out of the state's dependence on imported coal, large incentives for rooftop solar and clean self-generation, the adoption of greenhouse gas vehicle standards, and mandated increases in the state's renewable portfolio. These policies formed the backbone of AB 32 and the state's commitment to reduce global warming emissions to 1990 levels by 2020. These initiatives, along with passage of significant federal tax credits and financing of renewable energy projects from the Obama administration, have resulted in an unprecedented boom in renewable energy projects being built and planned for the California market. Between now and 2020, California will install 15,000 megawatts of renewable energy projects, the vast majority of which will be wind and solar PV. My goal, and the goal of many in this room, is for the Imperial and the Coachella Valley to host as many of these projects as possible, while trying to accelerate the transition to a greater reliance on energy efficiency and renewable energy for our electricity supply. California is facing the need to modernize its aging electricity grid, phase out old and inefficient natural gas power plants, and replace power from the shutdown of the San Onofre nuclear power plant in Southern California that was referred to earlier. And how we meet these extraordinary energy infrastructure investments is a once-in-a-generation opportunity and an unprecedented challenge. For the past several years, my team and I have spent an enormous amount of time exploring policy-based initiatives that respond to these challenges. Most recently, we introduced AB 177. It was my attempt to respond to the flurry of state reports by the Little Hoover Commission, the Legislative Analyst Office, the Stanford Hoover Institute, which all concluded that California's energy and environmental planning process needs serious reform. These reports found that a myriad of interrelated goals and mandates were strewn across multiple agencies with little coordination to ensure the implementation of one goal or mandate did not adversely impact one another. Excuse me. At the same time, the California Air Resources Board was developing and implementing a cap-and-trade system under AB 32, designed to lower the state's emissions of greenhouse gases to 19 levels by 2020. And the California Public Utilities Commission was tasked with implementing the state's renewable portfolio standard, its RPS, and its haste to comply with the state's goal of procuring 33% of its energy from renewables. The CPUC accepted all but 2 of the renewable energy procurement proposals submitted by utilities. And with over 40% of greenhouse gas emissions coming from the electricity sector, it would have made sense for the CPUC to consider how the resources being procured by utilities would impact the state's ability to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in accordance with AB 32. But that did not happen. Under state law, the CPUC is charged with ensuring reliable utility service and infrastructure at reasonable rates. Therefore, in screening utility procurement plans, the CPUC focused much of its attention on the relative cost of different renewable technologies. Because the price per kilowatt hour at large-scale wind and solar projects is lower than other renewable technologies, wind and solar have made up the bulk of technologies authorized by the CPUC to meet the RPS. Solar and wind technologies, however, are intermittent resources. When the wind stops blowing or the sun sets, other conventional generation resources must be brought online or risk rolling blackouts. As such, a utility's energy portfolio that relies entirely on intermittent renewable resources will necessarily also have to procure new natural gas generation to ensure the grid remains stable and reliable. Though I applaud the growth of the solar and wind industry and the progress made in reaching the 32% RPS goal, I am concerned about the existing framework. I believe it undervalues the reliability attributes of baseload renewable resources and relies too much on fast-ramping natural gas projects and for maintaining grid reliability. This is not to say that I don't think there is room for natural gas in our electricity mix. I wholeheartedly believe that natural gas will play an important role in helping transition our economy away from more polluting resources, such as coal and oil. And it will also assist in keeping energy costs affordable. But given the state's existing procurement trajectory, I am concerned that the market for imperial and renewable resources in and around the Salton Sea will be significantly constrained if the state's utilities procure too much natural gas. And in addition, increased natural gas procurement may impede the state's ability to meet its greenhouse gas emission goals. If not appropriately balanced with other renewables, storage, smart grid, and energy efficient strategies. Given the need to better coordinate the state's energy planning efforts and the need to ensure that imperial and Salton Sea-based renewable resources will have a future market, in January of this year, I amended AB 177 to do two things. To codify a key recommendation from CARB's 2013 AB 32 Scoping Plan Update and the CEC's 2013 Integrated Energy Policy Report, proposing the establishment of a 2030 interim greenhouse gas reduction target for the electricity sector. And as well, acknowledging that it will take the Air Resources Board time to develop the 2030 target, AB 177 also proposed to codify the Public Utility Commission's loading order, making permanent the existing requirement that utilities meet their energy needs first through energy efficiency, demand response, and renewable resources before procuring conventional generation resources, with an eye towards maintaining grid reliability. I felt this approach would send a clear signal to the market that renewable technologies, especially those with clean baseload attributes, would continue to be a valuable and integral part of California's energy future. But as we approached the Assembly, Utilities, and Commerce Committee, I quickly realized that I was one of the lonely few that actually felt this way. To make a long story short, AB 177 was opposed by utilities, in addition to wind and solar developer associations. And the bill was significantly amended down to a policy that, in my humble opinion, did very little to enhance market opportunities for developers looking to build renewable projects in Southern California. I think many in Sacramento misconstrued the legislation being only about Salton Sea geothermal power and did not recognize the benefits and market certainty for all renewables that AB 177 was trying to provide. I know many in this room would suggest that raising the RPS would go a long way in advancing the next generation of renewable energy procurement that so many of us are eager to see. Though I agree that such a policy would be a simpler way to advance the market, there is growing concern in the halls of Sacramento that arbitrary renewable procurement targets may expose California's ratepayers to increased costs and rate shock. Now, I know that some of these assertions are debatable, but what is not debatable is the clear authority recently provided to the CPUC to raise the RPS. I want to remind the renewable energy industry here today that the future of your industry is in ensuring that every renewable resource residing in California is fully optimized and developed. In that regard, there is no other region in California that possesses the abundance of solar, wind, and geothermal resources than right here in the Imperial Valley. The Desert Renewable Energy Conservation Plan estimates the solar, wind, biomass, and geothermal potential of the Imperial Valley at a minimum of 10,000 megawatts. And though I am in the midst of my final year in the California State Assembly, I will not cease my efforts to ensure that the 10,000 megawatts of renewable resources located in Imperial Valley and around the Salton Sea are developed to the extent possible, especially those local renewable resources that have been either under-procured or underdeveloped under the existing RPS framework, such as geothermal and biomass energy. In light of this, Senator Ben Wessel and I will convene a joint Assembly and Senate Select Committee hearing on the 27th of this month in order to focus on the status of geothermal development in California. The hearing will also examine the transmission impediments that need to be resolved in order to get these very important and underdeveloped, under-procured resources on the grid. The Salton Sea geothermal resource area is widely considered by many geothermal industry leaders as the best opportunity for near-term growth in California. Negative impacts associated with the shrinking sea, such as increased air pollution issues and further concentration of sea salts, could potentially be mitigated by the expansion of geothermal development. And as the sea recedes, it will expose new lands and provide access to prime undeveloped geothermal resources. Before this growth can begin, there are a number of barriers, though, that must be overcome, mostly related to a shortage of transmission, a lack of power purchase agreements, weak demand, and a stringent permitting process. In response, the Imperial Irrigation District has proposed to the CalISO the construction of a new 500 kV transmission line in order to provide transmission capacity for the export of renewable energy located in the Imperial Valley. This important infrastructure upgrade, coupled with other improvements within IID's transmission system, will provide an effective multi-regional solution that will strengthen the grid and assure energy reliability in Southern California. When completed, this new transmission line could handle an estimated 2,200 megawatts of new generation, while also providing other utilities and the CalISO access to Imperial Valley renewable resources. The construction of this new transmission line will also enable local renewable energy developers to secure power purchase agreements with load-serving entities throughout the state. Some may argue that we need the power purchase agreements before we finance new transmission, while others argue that we need to finance new transmission to facilitate new power purchase agreements. What I argue is that rather than to debate this chicken and egg conundrum, we should aggressively pursue both goals simultaneously and strive to align our local renewable energy development goals with the state's long-term greenhouse gas emission goals. If the state is serious about addressing climate change, then it must be serious about developing, to the fullest extent possible, the renewable resources of the Imperial Valley and around the Salton Sea. Many of these issues will be explored at the hearing later this month, and given the robust nature of this discussion, Senator Ben Wessel and I are jointly authoring AB 407, which will serve as a legislative vehicle to host ideas and recommendations that may derive from the hearing. Given some of the recent local news about the closing beef plant, significant job loss, and increased unemployment, the economic uplift of developing local renewable resources can go a long way in helping to mitigate these adverse economic impacts. And assuming the full build-out of these renewable resources, the potential for job creation in Imperial Valley and the Salton Sea region is estimated to be over 200,000 jobs. We can ill afford to let this opportunity fall by the wayside. The stakes are much too high, and the vision is so grand that only together we can achieve it. In closing, I want to thank all of you for being my friends and allies these past 5 years in the California legislature. I feel fulfilled and professionally gratified with how far we have come in such a short amount of time. In my tenure as your State Assembly member, we have presided over 4 legislative hearings focused on the removal of impediments to local renewable energy development, We've had 3 bus tours of the Salton Sea Renewable Resource Area, one of which included Thurl Steinberg and U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer. In addition, I am proud to say that we have passed 11 important pieces of renewable energy legislation that we authored together and that were signed into law. Some of this legislation includes the expansion of local tax incentives for purposes of manufacturing components of renewable energy technology in California, or ensured that renewable energy projects were not unduly taxed on federal-era funded cash grants, or expediting the permitting and siting of renewable energy projects within the Desert Renewable Energy Conservation Plan, secured $6 million in local planning grants to encourage counties participating in the DRECP to revise their general plans and zone ordinances for renewable energy development. All these accomplishments are our accomplishments. At the same time, I want to say thank you to the individuals that have worked so hard on all these fronts. Kevin Kelly, Antonio Ortega, and all the governing board members of the Imperial Irrigation District, Gary Wyatt, Ralph Cordova, and the Imperial County Board of Supervisors, Barb Hargraves, and Roger Sintaku of the Salton Sea Authority, and many of you in this room that supported our efforts, either as individual companies, business associations, or advocacy organizations. I would be remiss if I also didn't take the time to thank my staff, Bianca Velez, who's here, and Manuel Martinez, who's also here, and I'd like to also say Antonio Ortega, who was on my staff my first 3 years. And as well, our guru, my chief of staff, quite frankly, on renewable energy, Mr. Jose Carmona. He really has been the backbone of all our legislation and all our efforts. Together, we have come a long way to ensure that the Imperial Valley is on the map. For now and ever, in the halls of California State Legislature. But there is still much left to do. I know that many faces I see here tonight in the crowd will ensure that the clean energy economy in this valley remains vibrant and grows. And I call upon you all to work together, resolve differences, and unite under the banner of elevating the Imperial Valley and the Salton Sea region to become one of the most accomplished renewable energy zones of the world. This region is one of the cusp of becoming one of the world's prime areas for renewable energy development. And I have no doubt that we are on the right side of history. Working together, I believe we can get it done, and I will always remain your humble servant and friend. And I understand that the workshops were great today, and tomorrow you have a few more. It really has been a blessing, and it really has been an honor for me to be your assembly member. And know that we still have this year left, and know that I will still continue to reach out to other members in the state legislature. I've always felt that when I got there, that this was personal. You know, I have many family and friends as well that live here in Imperial County. And I also have to look out for my family and friends and allies in Imperial County, not only those in the Coachella Valley. And so it really took a lot of work, quite frankly, to outreach and to educate other legislators from throughout the state of California to get it, to understand what we have here. And so I ask you to continue to advocate. I ask you to continue to outreach. I ask you to continue to push. I ask you to continue to make sure and make certain that you have a voice at the table. Don't give that up. Don't give that up. And at the end of the day, the state is liable for what's going on with the Salton Sea. That's very real. That's very real. And let's make sure that they don't forget that. Let's make sure that others in the state legislature and the Senate and the Assembly and as well as the governor does not forget that. And let's make sure that we're not forgotten, and let's make sure that we continuously have a voice there in the Capitol. Thank you so much for this honor, for this opportunity. I look forward to meeting you throughout this evening.
Does he have passion or what? You know, this year, the Renewable Energy Summit decided to establish 2 leadership awards. The Imperial Valley Renewable Energy Leadership Award for an individual and for a company. And I guess I don't have to tell you much because he's right here. So, Manuel, would you please step forward? Doesn't want to come out. The plaque reads, Imperial Valley Renewable Energy Leadership Award presented to an outstanding leader who has given their service to growing the renewable energy industry to the benefit of the region, V. Manuel Perez.
Just want to say thank you. This is your award, and just thank you so much for this honor. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll give you all this stuff here. Wow. You did it, buddy. You did it. Good. Now, as indicated, we have the Individual Leadership Award, and then we have the Company Leadership Award. And again, as the committee went through the awarding of this particular award, we looked at those entities that have been involved with renewable energy in the Imperial Valley for not years, but decades. And so it was a unanimous selection from the committee that Cal Energy receive the Leadership Award. Is there a representative from Cal Energy here? And the award reads, the Imperial Valley Renewable Energy Leadership Award, presented to an outstanding organization which has contributed to the growing renewable energy industry to benefit the region, Cal Energy.
I'll say a few words. Well, thank you so much. This is certainly unexpected, and of course I didn't realize I was going to be getting up here tonight, but this means a lot to us, and on behalf of our president, Steve Larson, I gratefully accept this award, and also most importantly, on behalf of all the many people that work out at Cal Energy 24/7 to keep those turbines running. I accept this award on their behalf, and thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you.
Here you go. Very well. Diane? Okay, so it's dessert time, and I see a few platters here. You got that right. So with that, please enjoy the dessert, and thank you so much for being here.